So recently, you recovering from an injury, huh? That's what I heard
Yes.
about. Why don't you
Yes.
want to share a little bit about it? It has to do with today's episode.
Sure. Yeah. So, what an intro. So, I am recovering from a back injury. Unfortunately, something that has happened before. So, it's a little bit of a recurring injury, but nevertheless, it sucks because most of what I do requires me to be active. Whether it's playing the keys on a Sunday or dancing or choreographing or teaching dance or even filmmaking. All of it involves it. But thankfully, thank God, it's not serious to the point that I have to go to the hospital, like get surgery or crazy like that. But definitely requires me to cancel everything that I had planned for a few days at least, and just allow my body to rest and recover. Because I think that's the message that's sometimes hard for me to get, and I think I've realized over time that a lot of time those things happen, and it's kind of like that call of just like chill, take a breather. You're not gonna die, and you're
Yeah.
gonna be back at 100%. So, which leads it completely into the segment or into the episode topic that we're talking today. We're gonna be talking about resting and about
Yes.
rest. So, I guess let's open it. And what are some of your thoughts when you think of the topic of rest?
Well, definitely, you've got sleep. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think that's just the easiest thing to start talking about. Is
Yeah.
probably most adults do not get enough sleep, or they get too much. That's my
Ah.
thought process.
Yeah.
I mean, you only really need like 7 hours.
Hmm.
Like you can do okay with six. Like eight's like okay, like where you had a busy day, but like the whole 9 hours of sleep thing, like great for kids, sure. And parents
Mm-hmm.
get the longer their kids are asleep, the more peace their parents have. But other than that, I don't really think that a lot of people kind of pay attention to their sleep that much. And it's just kind of amazing. I know for me personally, how getting a good night's sleep, getting that rest is really important. I mean, working an 8 to 5, 40-hour work week. Especially like last week, I worked 10-hour days because we had a project overtime we were doing. But so a 50-hour week, and it's like, okay, there were a couple of days where I didn't get enough sleep, and it's like, I felt it. And it really gets you. It really does. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my experience, I feel like rest is one of those things. Either you get it and you decide to be smart about it, or it's gonna catch up to you and you're gonna regret not
Yeah.
making it a priority. And I was thinking about this even before we record today about the podcast specifically. And we haven't released content in a long time, and I was thinking about it in a way like it was unintentionally, because we had a lot of different things to plan, but we've been so busy and there have been so many things going on that we couldn't even find time to like actually, so like without even wanting to, we kind of took a rest, like a break from the podcast, and even that, it kind of gives you that perspective of, at least to me, anything that we do, be it business, being your job, your passion, whatever. I think at some extent you need to find a rhythm that allows you to rest from those things, and that goes on the daily, on the weekly, on the monthly, on the yearly, and so forth.
Right.
And I feel like every time, again, in my experience, every time that I've been smart about that and being able to include that in the ongoing process of whatever it is I'm doing, it's always amazing. Like you feel almost like that, almost like pressing that resetting button, and like you're ready to go again, you're fresh again. And every time that I've neglected it, I also know that it just bites me back in the back.
Yeah.
Like either like it's an injury or it's just like, I mean, you literally you can't think straight, or you can't process, or like you're falling asleep behind the wheel, like all these
Oh,
different
gosh.
things.
Yeah,
It
that's dangerous.
it gets
Right there,
crazy,
yeah.
but we
Yeah.
don't think about that. But
Yeah.
so much of even our mood, even our attitude, the thoughts that we have, like so much of who we are is affected by the amount of rest that we allow ourselves at so many different levels. And so because of that, I feel like you were spot on. It has to be something that we spend a lot more time like thinking about and prioritizing, but unfortunately we don't do that because I don't
Right.
think we are taught how important it is, or to take care of that. So yeah, I'll say those are some of my thoughts about rest. But I have a question since we're on the rest thing. What do you feel like are some ways or like some tools that help you And not that you're perfect at it or anything like that, obviously we're not, guys, but what are some things that help you be more aware or more conscious when it comes to like establishing rest, like in your routine? Like what's something that help you either make it happen or like being more aware of it and actually doing something about it? Do you feel like there's something that helped you?
Yeah, definitely.
With that, yeah?
And there's two different questions. I want to answer both of them.
Gotcha.
So for making it happen, I think that we exercise much more mental strain than we do physical in our day-to-day. I mean, from the moment people wake up, typically, if your phone's your alarm clock, you're grabbing your phone the first thing when you wake up to turn that alarm off, right? And then it's very easy and often for people, like sometimes I do this, just roll over in bed. It's like, all right, let me check socials and all this stuff and see what's going on. And so your mind is kind of just engaged almost immediately upon waking up. And if you're awake for 16 to 18 hours, your mind is literally going that whole time, right? Because you're working or you're distracted or you're looking at stuff, or you're watching things, and so you're using all this mental exertion, and you can get to the point where you're at the end of the day where you're mentally tired, but you're not physically tired because you've not exercised or worked your body. So one thing I would say that really helps with a good night's sleep is exercising. I think, and then doing it consistently, because there are plenty of times where I found myself where I couldn't go to sleep. It's because I didn't work out or I didn't hardly have any real exercise. Working in an office environment, it's very easy to sit in a chair for almost 9 hours while you're there. And you get up and move around a little bit, but for the most part, you're just sitting there on the computer looking at screens, 2 feet in front of your face all day. And then you go home, and if you look at your phone or you watch a movie or you play a computer game, then now your 8-9 hours becomes like, now it's 13-14. So it's like, imagine, if you will, you're spending 15 to 16 hours in front of something and just sitting. So your body's not meant to really do that. So that prevents you, I think, from getting a good night's sleep. So number one, exercise. Number two, drink water. In the same way that cars need to be maintained with oil changes and you need to put gas in your car, otherwise it stops going. If you don't put water in your body, it's not going to work. You're going to have issues. Like, so many things stem from dehydration, from mood to irritable syndromes to stress to not being able to sleep well, even to weight gain. It's just like, if you don't drink enough water, then you're not, you're going to have some issues. Also with that, it's like, okay, well, let me drink Diet Coke, or let me drink a different type of soda, or let me have some alcohol, let me have a liquid, or let me drink coffee. Coffee dehydrates you. It's caffeine, it's mostly water. When you drink coffee, you're dehydrating your body. So if you drink coffee, you still got to drink water.
Nice.
So hydration. Number three, you gotta eat right, because, and you gotta know when to stop eating. Like, for the last 2.5 months or so, I've been intermittently fasting. So I just eat usually around a 9 to 10 hour period of the day, and I'm not super strict with it. For the most part, I start eating around like 10 a.m. I usually try to stop eating around 6-7 o'clock. And I found that from in the morning to 10, like, other than water and or maybe coffee or tea or whatever, I feel fine.
Nice.
And then throughout the day, I usually eat a good lunch, have something in between, and then eat dinner. And then I'm stopping eating by 7 because I usually go to bed around 11. So for the last 4 hours of the day, I'm not putting sugar or fats or caffeines or all this stuff in my body, because yesterday I actually had coffee twice.
Nice.
I could not go to sleep. And I'm laying there like, why can't I sleep? I'm like, oh, dude, you had like 4 cups of coffee today. Like, duh, that makes sense. So you got to pay attention to what you're putting in your body. And I think that will really kind of help you get a better night's sleep, which goes into the next set. It's like, how do you become more aware of your lack of rest? You got to pay attention to what you're putting in your body. Got to pay attention to your mood. What are you surrounding yourself with? If you are constantly watching things that are very like emotional or stressful or controversial, or like you read the newspaper every day, or like are watching news media stuff, that's going to elicit stress in your body, which, we're capable of adapting and responding to stress for a certain extent, but ongoing stress coupled with, not eating right, not exercising, having no real physical release for this mental stress, it just kind of puts toxins inside your body. And then it's like, of course you can't sleep. And then you also need to pay attention to, like, what time are you going to bed? Because if you're somebody who always has to drink coffee every morning, it's like, well, why? Well, it's because I don't get to bed till midnight every night. Well, why don't you get to bed till midnight? Well, what are you doing? What kind of job do you have? What kind of work do you do between when you get off work till you go to bed? Like, write it down. Chart out a week. I mean, we did this in one of my business classes, and it was actually pretty cool, where we were doing biorhythm charts to figure out, like, when was your best, like, most concentrated and highest energy levels, and whether those were in sync, or, like, if you found what time. And from, like, for me, from, like, 9 to noon and then, like, 4 to 7 are, like, my best times to be productive.
Nice.
And then everything in between that, it kind of is just like, whatever. But those are, like, where I found my areas were. So it's like, you kind of have to, like, pay attention, because being irritable, being dehydrated, not being able to rest, feeling restless, these are all symptoms of you're not doing something correctly with your body. And most of the times, drinking water and getting a good night's sleep will fix it. So with this current back thing, like, I noticed, like, you ice it, and what are some of the other things you do when you know you need to now rest? Like, how do you tackle that issue of resting?
Gotcha. Well, I wanna answer it like with a slightly different angle, because I feel like a lot of what you said, like, targets specifically just like the day to day and sleep specifically as rest.
Stuff,
but
right.
I think I want to tackle just like another component of rest as well, because I think you said enough, like, on just like the physical and the sleeping. So I want to talk maybe on a little more maybe less regular, but maybe on a more wholesome type of resting. And by that, I mean disconnecting from everything that is a part of the grind, part of what usually taxes you on an ongoing basis. And something that my wife and I, Alyssa, we do a lot is we try every week, and it doesn't always fall on the same day, but every week we try to have a day in which, because we have a certain amount of control over our week and, like, our workload. So we try to schedule. And this is a pretty well-known concept. The Sabbath concept goes all the way to the Jewish culture. But it's basically finding a day in the week in which you can have as little work as you can and take that time to disconnect from everything that's usual. And I mean, whether it's phones, whether it's communicating with people, whether it's consuming media, whether it's working, like all the things that usually are just like a part of ongoing life, but that we don't realize that take from us because it's just natural. Taking a break from it, and it can look like, it can look like locking yourself at home and taking a bath, or it can look like going out to the mountains and hiking, anything that is, but something that's completely out of what I usually do and allows you to first be quiet and not just be quiet by not talking, but actually be quiet in here and not having to think about this budget and this project and this, but actually being quiet and just breathing and just being grounded in the now and the fact that you're alive and in the fact that tomorrow is not here, yesterday is not here, but you are here, and focusing on yourself, how you really are feeling about everything that is going on in your life, like how are you mentally, like almost like a checkpoint. I like to call them those, because there's a good friend of mine not too long ago who gave me this wheel thing, and it's a therapeutic tool. I failed to use it so many times. I haven't actually used it, but she explained to me how it works. And it's this wheel that has all these different emotions and everything, and it's recommended to use it several times during the day. Actually, like when you start feeling some different emotions rising or out of energy or stressed out, you can pull it out and kind of like almost like have a conversation with yourself. Okay, right now I'm feeling angry and frustrated. Okay, you put it on a chart. Okay, why? What happened? And almost like retracing and staying in touch with yourself, because that's the risk. Like once we run at 200 miles per hour because we're doing all these things, the scariest part is that we become disconnected from ourselves. And to me, I think that's the biggest danger of not resting, like properly taking time to actually disconnect, because once you become disconnected from yourself, you're not in a place in which you can do what's in the best interest for yourself. And you're not in a place in which you can properly love yourself. You're not in a place in which you can properly feed yourself, feed your dreams, actually move yourself forward. You become all about what is already, like, you basically a part of the flow that is ongoing, but you completely disconnect on how you're really feeling. And it's scary because there's so many times for me in which I will go 2-3 weeks and I forget to do this, and then I come back and I'm like, okay, I need to do this week. And when I have that moment with myself of oh my god, like, I'm sad, like, I've been sad about this issue, either something that I heard like a month ago or so, but I never gave myself time to actually process it. So it just kind of like sits in the back there somewhere, something repressed, and then you move on because you gotta go, you gotta do this, and eventually all those things pile up in most of us. And then at one point you're just angry or you're just mad, and your regular emotion becomes stressed out and you have no idea why. But it's because the disconnect with your heart, with your soul, with your mind is so large, that you don't even have time to pause and look at it anymore. You're just going. And to me, that's one of the biggest benefits of actually resting, because when you rest right, whether it's like weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, you come out of it like so centered. I feel like it helps you do everything else that you have to do better. First of all, you become way more productive because you're going from where you should be going, from the center. But also, I think it allows you to take time to know yourself, to really like get to connect with yourself in the way in which we should be. And I feel like, and you can tell like the way people like interact, the way people speak, the way people look at each other, the way like we it's like these are just becoming shells that just need to produce and produce and produce. But like, when you look at people, like, I don't even know how to explain, like, people are not there anymore. Like, everyone is so like thinking of a billion different things while trying to do a billion different things while going into a billion different places. And I mean, productivity, you gotta achieve and all that, fine, but without rest, you never have that space to kind of like, okay, let's drop all this down for a minute and then let's come back to what matters here. Because at the end of the day, I matter more than all these different things and everything. Like my health, my soul, my spirit, like, and all that. And then once you can have that level of understanding for yourself, and that you become more understanding of other people, and you start trying to empower people also to do that for themselves and the rest. And so all that kind of like circling back to answer your question as far as how I'm taking care of myself with like my back and everything. And obviously it was rough because as soon as I got hurt, I had to cancel like practice, like class, and all these different projects. But as far as like obviously I'm taking care of myself physically, icing it, resting it, stretching it, heating it, like all the different things I need to do. But at the same time, I'm taking it as an opportunity to rest everything else, because I could be resting my body and I'm stressing out the whole time, thinking about all these different projects, right? Like, which kind of defeats the purpose, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think I'm using it as an opportunity to also, just chill, like, I don't know if it was the day before yesterday or the day before that, where I was just like, I'm just gonna wake up, I'm gonna take a bath. It was the first bath that I had in a long time. And I was like, I'm going to spoil myself. I'm just going to chill. I was listening to like some speeches and some music. And I just sat there and I was thinking about like my dreams, my goals, like people that I haven't seen in a while. And just thinking about like what is going on in the world, and just thinking about like some of the projects that I want to do. And then just like letting my mind wander. And there's just a lightness that comes with it. And in that moment, and then again, like processing different things, like there were a little bit of frustrations that I was harboring because of different things, but I hadn't had time to process. So I was unpacking that, and I was like, okay, like what is going on here? Like, Joey, like what are you gonna do about it? Are you just gonna let it like make you become bitter? Like, what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna talk to that person? And then it gives you that space. So all that to say that rest is one of those things that, again, in my personal life, I found that either I have to make it a priority or things like this happen when I get hurt, and then I have to, I don't have another way but to rest. So I encourage everyone to make it a part of like your routine in something. And this is a topic, oh my God, we can talk about this topic for
Of
days.
course, yeah, definitely.
We can cover it for a whole month because there's so many layers. But I think like one of my biggest advice is just either you're gonna have to prioritize rest one way or another in your life. And if you do not, I 100% guarantee you, your body and I mean God, if anything, loves you too much to let you go too long without rest. He will make you rest, and you don't want to get to that point where you're like you have to because this happened or because that happened. And so just take care of yourself, just like take time to pause and breathe, and like whether it's like on a daily with like the physical rest and like actually sleeping, or like on a longer spectrum, like it's healthy. It's a part of a healthy routine and a healthy lifestyle, just being able to rest. So
It reminds me kind of when you talked about like out after a while, no matter what, it's going to catch up to you. Reading this Maxwell book, Failing Forward, and he talks about like one of the stories in the book has to do with like consequences of our actions, responsibility, right?
Oh.
And it's like you have a responsibility, if you will, to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And people like the thing in the book talks about you can neglect responsibility for what you're required to do, but you cannot neglect the consequences or avoid the consequences of those responsibilities. So consequences of not taking care of your body, not resting, not disconnecting will come in the form of overexertion or being exhausted, oversleeping, being late to work, getting seriously injured, or making much more dramatic mistakes than it would be if you just like, I need to take care of myself. What am I doing? How can I make sure that I'm, able to manage everything I'm doing? Because, people are the busiest they've ever been. It's like you said at one time in another episode, you can ask a kid, like, what are you doing? They have things they're doing, projects and the media, and like, oh, I'm doing this. It's like, you asked me when I was a kid, what are you doing? I'm playing with Legos.
Yep.
Running outside with, my bike and my brothers. But like, you definitely need to just think about deliberately, like, okay, what are you doing? It's definitely a good wake-up call to look at it with the opportunity you had when it comes to like, okay, where am I at, and what is this telling me? What is my body telling me? Because at the end, one day we'll be old, and one day we'll go, and it's are you just gonna go and then you're just gonna stop, or are there gonna be moments in your life where you get that rest that allow you to maybe even go further?
Yeah.
And
Good
then
word.
you gotta just kind of stop and enjoy.
Yeah.
And make sure you rest.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think as we wrap up, maybe I want to give. I was thinking about this in the back of my head, but just like a few benefits why this is good, because people are always like, what's in it for me? I mean, you should know by now, why rest is good for you. But just in case you don't, like, just in my experience again, like the few areas that it helps me a lot in my relationships. First of all, I am the worst person when I'm not well rested, because my center is all off. I am not as energetic. I'm not as focused. I'm not as kind. I'm not as thoughtful. Like all the core things that are part of me that I value so much, somebody just crumble. Like because I'm falling apart when I'm not resting. Like that's literally what is happening, when your body wants you to rest again. So it definitely affects your relationship, the quality of relationship, and the person you can be for others. It affects your productivity, which is something we don't even think, because we think just go, that makes you make more. But it's ridiculous how when you go a little, rest, go a little, like that little becomes so much more powerful, because every time you do that little, you go at it at 100% versus running down, you're at 50% and you're just going. But if you rest, reset to 100%, go a little bit, reset every time, the quality is just different versus running on fumes at 20% and thinking just because you keep going, you're going to do something well. Because then it ends up just being quantity over quality, which nobody wants that lifestyle, And the last thing I would say is just like the point that you mentioned, that was so good. Like a lot of the people who live, because there's all these people out there who live like to way in the 100 plus years. A lot of them when they ask, because everybody wants to know, like, what do you do?
Yeah,
like,
what's the secret?
what's the
Living
secret?
long life. Yeah.
And there's so much in this too. Like a lot of them, they laugh a lot. A lot of them, they have like regular routines and things like that. But one of the key thing that I feel like I find about all those people is their ability to like take so much time to stop. Like all these people, they always like, oh my gosh, like either every morning I just take a walk like in the woods, or like every so often I go visit this place where I just get to disconnect from the world. Like in some shape or form, they all had rest like in the big center block of their routine, not just day to day, but like on a bigger spectrum too. Everyone's like, oh yeah, like I ever since I was young, I'll always do this like every month with my family. We'll always just do this thing. And it's like you start hearing this, because I'm always fascinated with those things, because I'm like, you don't see that often, people living in the hundreds. So just that to say, like, I really do believe that the way in which you're able to master prioritizing rest in your life actually does also determine how long you're gonna live. I know it's a pretty bold statement, but I'm sure there's some kind of science out there that can add on to it. And we have all these people living in their hundreds talking about it. So I really believe, and it might just be 2-3 years, nothing too crazy, but still, I feel like not only you get quality time, but you even get a little more time doing the things you want with your loved ones and things like that. And I think that's worth paying attention to, so those are just some of the few things that I can think of. But I mean, try it out. Find out for yourself more advantages, like see how you feel when you're actually well rested, when you get a full night of sleep, when you get to disconnect and come back to like the grind, like see how, and trust me, you will not want to miss out again on the opportunity to take care of that, of yourself in that manner, because it just changes the game for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much again for being with us, and thank you for being here. See, I know it's been a while since we dropped an episode, but we're just so thankful to still have you guys listening, and thank you for allowing us as well to rest as a podcast, and then so hopefully we're going to be back now with a little more frequent things, and just continue to have this moment in this space where we just build each other up, and just continue to add on to the collective knowledge that we have, and continue to improve the quality of our lives. So have a good one,
and stay joyfully golden.
See you next time.